If you own property here in Memphis, you're probably thinking about, well, more than just your own lot line, right? You're thinking about where the city's headed, its future, and how all that growth or lack of it impacts your investment, your neighborhood.
Absolutely. Which is exactly why we need to talk about Memphis 3.0.
The comprehensive plan.
That's right.
Yeah, that big document that's supposed to guide development for, what, the next 20 years?
That's the one. And for you, the property owner listening, the real question is probably, is this thing actually promoting smart growth for Memphis?
Right. What does smart growth even look like here? And how does it affect, your property, your community?
That's what we're digging into today, really trying to unpack it from that perspective.
Okay, so just to be clear, for this deep dive, we're focused entirely on the official Memphis 3.0 comprehensive plan, the one adopted back in 2019, amended in 21.
Yeah, and this isn't just like a suggestion list. The plan itself is pretty clear. Once the city council adopted it, all land use decisions in Memphis have to be consistent with it.
So it's kind of a big deal then. Understanding it is pretty essential for anyone owning property here. Non-negotiable, really.
Think of it like the city's roadmap, its master blueprint. It sets out this core vision, build up, not out.
Okay, build up, not out. I've heard that phrase.
And then it breaks that down. Specific goals, objectives, actual actions, covering land use, how we get around, opportunity, sustainability. It's the framework.
Guiding where the money goes, how things change.
Exactly, how Memphis evolves.
All right, build up, not out. Let's unpack that. Historically, Memphis grew outwards, right? Lots of sprawl.
Yeah, for decades that was the model. Annexation, new developments, further and further from the core. Memphis 3.0 represents a real pivot away from that.
So what's the thinking? Why the shift?
Build up, not out is fundamentally about reinvesting, putting resources back into the core city, into existing neighborhoods.
Instead of spreading thinner and thinner.
Precisely. It's a core principle of smart growth, using the infrastructure we already have, revitalizing communities that exist, not just constant expansion.
And for a property owner, that might mean more attention paid to their area, potentially.
Potentially, yeah, if your area aligns with the plan's priorities.
And the plan lays out specific goals to make this happen. You mentioned anchor areas.
Right. It talks about redeveloping and reinvesting in these specific anchor areas. We'll get into what those are. Improving connectivity is another big one.
Making it easier to get places.
Yeah, better transit, walkability, bike paths, and expanding equity and opportunity across the city, not just in certain pockets.
That sounds ambitious.
It is. But what's interesting is the community input. They mentioned over 15,000 Memphians were involved in crafting this.
Wow, okay. So there's some buy-in, presumably?
It suggests a decent level of community support for this new direction, for building up, not just out.
Okay, so let's get practical. How does this vision actually translate? What are the key pieces of the plan that point towards smarter growth?
Well, a really critical piece is the future land use planning framework. Instead of like a blanket zoning approach everywhere, this framework tries to tailor the type of development to the specific neighborhood.
Tailor it how?
It looks at the existing character, the feel of the place. It considers the potential for investment and, importantly, what the community actually wants.
So it's not just build density everywhere.
Exactly. That nuance is crucial for smart growth. Yeah. Recognizing different areas have different needs, different possibilities.
It's not just ideas, right? So there are actions.
Yeah, the strategic framework with actions. It lists specific steps, initiatives. It's meant to move things from just being a vision on paper to actual changes on the ground.
Got it. Now, you mentioned anchors and anchor neighborhoods earlier. That sounds really key, especially for property owners trying to figure out what this means for them.
It absolutely is. The plan identifies these anchors across Memphis. Think of them like hubs.
Hubs.
Like established urban centers, or maybe your local neighborhood main street, the walkable street with shops and restaurants. Could also be big employers, universities, medical centers.
Okay. Places that draw people.
Right. Places seen as having real potential for investment and positive growth. And then around each anchor, there's the anchor neighborhood, usually within, say, a quarter-mile or half-mile radius.
And the idea is to focus development there.
That's a core smart growth strategy, yeah.
Yeah.
Concentrate development and public investment in these nodes rather than scattering it everywhere.
Makes sense. More bang for your buck, maybe.
Potentially. And the plan even maps this out with a degree of change map.
Degree of change.
Yeah, it shows how much change is planned or anticipated for different anchors. Some are marked accelerate, meaning significant development is encouraged.
Okay. High growth areas.
Others are nurture for more gradual, supportive change. And then there are sustain areas.
Sustain meaning.
Meaning the focus is more on preserving the existing character, making targeted improvements, but not wholesale transformation.
Ah, okay. So if you own property, figuring out if you're near an anchor and what kind of anchor it is, accelerate, nurture, sustain, that tells you a lot.
It gives you a really good indication of the city's intentions for that area. If you're near a neighborhood main street designated for nurture, maybe you expect improvements, support for local businesses, better sidewalks.
But maybe not huge apartment complexes going up next door.
Probably less likely than in an accelerate urban center, for example. The plan tries to provide that context.
Connectivity was another theme you mentioned, making it easier to get around.
Yes, and that's critical for smart growth, too. Memphis 3.0 really pushes for better access. Access to jobs, businesses, services.
How kinds of things?
More efficient public transit is a big one. The plan actually references the Transit Vision 2022 effort, also expanding greenways, bike lanes, and just basic sidewalks, making it easier and safer to move around without needing a car for every single trip.
Which, in theory, makes places more desirable to live.
Exactly. Better connectivity can make properties more attractive, reduces traffic, creates more vibrant street life. It all ties together.
Okay. Now, Memphis has a well-known challenge with vacancy and blight. Huge issue in some areas. Does the plan tackle that?
It definitely acknowledges it. I mean, the numbers are stark, something like 78 square miles of vacant land mentioned. Tackling this is a major focus.
Oh, just telling people to fix up properties.
It's more strategic than that. There's something called the Vacant Lot Activation Toolkit.
Activation toolkit. Sounds interesting.
It outlines different ways to reuse vacant lots, depending on the situation. Could be creating a small park or green space, a nature lot. Could be prepping it for future, building a development lot. Or maybe managing stormwater, a flood lot.
So different solutions for different lots.
Right. The goal is to actively reduce vacancy and blight, which helps stabilize neighborhoods. And that's a direct benefit if you own property nearby.
Yeah, nobody wants to live next to a chronically vacant, blighted lot. Turning that into something useful has got to help.
It can make a huge difference to the feel and the value of a block.
The plan also talks about mixed-income communities. What's the smart growth angle there?
The idea is that healthy, resilient neighborhoods have a mix of people and housing types. Smart growth isn't just about physical form, it's also about social and economic sustainability.
So avoiding concentrating poverty or only building luxury units.
Exactly. The plan pushes for strategies to ensure a range of housing options and affordability levels. Things like supporting accessory dwelling units or ADUs.
Those are like garage apartments or backyard cottages.
Yeah, smaller secondary units on a property. And also advocating for what's called missing middle housing.
Missing middle.
Think duplexes, triplexes, townhouses, small courtyard apartments, options that fall between a single-family house and a big apartment building. They've been kind of missing from a lot of new development.
Okay, so encouraging more variety in housing.
Which can attract different types of households and make neighborhoods more inclusive and, frankly, more interesting.
And lastly, infrastructure investment. Roads, sewers, broadband.
Right, and the key here is alignment. Smart growth means coordinating those big, expensive infrastructure investments with the areas targeted for growth.
So putting the new sewer lines where the accelerate anchors are planned, not way out on the fringe.
That's the goal. Making sure infrastructure supports the build-up, not out vision efficiently, not subsidizing sprawl with new pipes and roads miles away from the core.
Okay, that's a lot to take in about the plan's mechanics. Let's bring it back home. For our listeners, the Memphis property owners, what are the direct tangible impacts this could have?
Well, the most obvious one potentially is property values. If you own property in or near one of those anchor areas, getting focused reinvestment.
Like improved parks, streets, transit.
Yeah, all those amenities, plus potentially new businesses and residents moving in. That often leads to increased property values over time.
Music to a property owner's ears, potentially.
Mm-hmm.
What about development opportunities?
For sure. If you happen to own vacant land, or maybe an underused building, especially in an anchor neighborhood designated for growth.
Like an accelerated nurture zone.
Exactly. This plan might create real opportunities for infill development. Building something new that fits the plan's vision for that area. There might even be incentives down the line, depending on how the city implements things.
And the connectivity piece. Better transit, walkability.
That makes properties fundamentally more attractive. Easier access widens the pool of potential renters or buyers. That demand can support values and rental income.
Makes sense. What about owners in older neighborhoods, maybe ones that have struggled with some of those blight issues we talked about?
For them, the plan's focus on tackling vacancy, on stabilization, could be huge if those efforts are successful.
Cleaning up problem properties,
Yeah.
activating vacant lots.
Right. That leads to a more stable environment, better quality of life, and could help property values recover or grow in areas that maybe felt neglected before.
Memphis has such distinct neighborhoods, though. Uptown doesn't feel like Cooper Young, which doesn't feel like Whitehaven. Does the plan steamroll that character?
It tries not to. That degree of change map we mentioned is key here.
With the accelerate, nurture, sustain categories.
Yeah. The sustain designation specifically acknowledges areas where the goal is to maintain the existing character, make sensitive improvements, but not push for radical change. It recognizes that diversity.
So it's not a monolithic plan for the whole city.
It attempts to be place-based, tailoring the approach.
And we keep coming back to this. All land use decisions have to follow the plan. Practically, what does that mean day to day for an owner?
It means if you want to rezone your property, or if a developer wants to build something nearby, the first question the city should ask is this consistent with Memphis 3.0?
So the plan becomes the benchmark.
It's the official guide.
Ah.
Understanding what it says about your area helps you understand what's likely possible or what might be restricted in the future. It's crucial context.
Okay. But look, no plan is perfect. What are some potential challenges or, things to watch out for with Memphis 3.0?
Well, implementation is always the big one, isn't it? Having a plan is great, but making it happen consistently.
Requires funding.
Funding, yes, and real coordination between city departments, developers, community groups, everybody. That's complex and takes sustained effort.
What about balancing growth with, preserving historic buildings or neighborhood character?
That's a constant tension. Especially in those accelerate areas, there's a real need to be thoughtful about how new development fits in with the existing fabric. That requires careful design review and ongoing community conversation.
And the G word, gentrification. When you invest heavily in an area, property values go up, rents go up. Does the plan risk pushing people out?
It's a definite risk, and the plan acknowledges it, particularly concerning those accelerate anchors, the focus on mixed-income housing strategies we talked about.
Yeah, the ADUs, missing middle.
That's partly intended to mitigate displacement, but it's something that needs very careful monitoring and proactive strategies to ensure longtime residents aren't pushed out as areas improve. It's a tough balance.
So wrapping this up, for Memphis property owners listening, what's the bottom line? Is Memphis 3.0 smart growth? What's the key takeaway?
I think the key takeaway is that Memphis 3.0 represents a really significant, deliberate shift, a shift towards a smarter growth model for the city.
Moving away from pure sprawl.
Right. Focusing on reinvestment in existing areas, improving connections, trying to build more equitably. This shift has direct implications, potential benefits, potential challenges for property owners across Memphis.
So understanding it isn't just academic, it provides real context for your property or neighborhood's future.
Absolutely critical context. If you haven't already, we really encourage listeners to go online, find the Memphis 3.0 plan document. Don't try to read all 400 pages at once, maybe.
Maybe not.
But look at the maps for your area. Find your neighborhood, see if it's near an anchor, what the future land use designation is, what street types are planned. Look for the district-specific summaries, too.
Get familiar with what it says about your corner of Memphis.
Exactly.
All right. So as folks do that, here's maybe a final thought to chew on. Thinking about this build-up, not-out idea and the focus on these anchors, what changes do you realistically see coming to your neighborhood over the next, say, 5, 10, 15 years? And how might this plan shape those changes? Definitely something worth considering.